Hi ho ho, and welcome to another Boy Time feature. This time about Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty. As always, I'm joined by Babby.
Mm.
Mm. We have a fun and exciting episode um, where we're going to talk about Cyberpunk, a game that everyone's talking about. It's very relevant
In year 2024.
in the year 2024. Um, I guess maybe let's start right off the bat. In general, what do you think about this game, Cyberpunk?
Um, I think this was so I have about 100 hours in this game.
Mm,
That's with this playthrough, and then I played through it in its entirety, like when the game first came out.
yes.
I was lucky enough to actually be able to play it on my computer hardware.
Mm.
Um, so that's probably like 20 something hours. I like went through the game pretty fast because it was still kind of broken, and I was like, I need to complete this before it like breaks again, and I just can't do anything. Um, I it's weird because I played through all of it. I have like 100 hours, and I still don't know how I feel about it.
You
um,
don't know how you feel about it.
it's very like middle of the road, I think, in every single aspect.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, I will note that this is the second video game we're talking about in a row where the main premise is that you have a little bug in your head that you have to get out.
That is absolutely true.
So,
Although, are you describing Keanu Reeves as a little bug?
um, I mean, I think there's physically a little bug.
Well, that's true.
What manifests out of that bug is something different.
I would not describe Keanu Reeves as a little bug.
Yeah. I would like to see Baldur's Gate with Keanu Reeves as the Emperor, and then the Emperor is in Cyberpunk for no reason.
Oh, a little switcheroo?
I feel like that would be fun.
That could be fun. Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. So you're middle of the road on Cyberpunk.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, I hate this game. Uh, and I'm similar to you. Let me see how many hours I have. 86.5 according to my Steam library. Granted, I don't know. I might have left this game open at some points. I'm pretty notorious for doing that, just forgetting to
Bro.
close out of games. So I don't know how accurate that is. That's probably closer to 70. I'll just be very generous and cut off 15 hours. Um, and yeah, I think in pretty much every way, this game falls flat on everything it's trying to do. And everything that it does well, it's done better in every other game that tries. And I feel I don't I was I'm glad that you're not like in love with it because I really did not want to have an uncomfortable, 30
Yeah.
minutes talking to you about it. Um, so I'm glad we're kind of in the same boat because people love this game.
People do love this game, which I think this will be an interesting episode.
I don't I don't understand how people love this game.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
but
I've been thinking that a lot, and I kind of have ideas, but I'm not completely sure on why.
I'm pretty sure, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. There's
Mhm.
just a good anime.
There is a good anime. I have not watched it.
I haven't either.
It was on my list. I might get to it eventually. So I think that did bring people to the game. The game also has closed development for good, like 2 months ago. So this is actually a little bit of a topical episode because
Oh,
the game is at its most complete state
oh,
right now.
perfect.
There's nothing else being added. They're moving development to whatever they're doing next. So this is
Yeah,
the purest cyberpunk experience we can have here.
I
Um,
suppose so.
yes.
Yes, yeah, I think, which maybe is a good thing to maybe start with is CD Project Red. I don't think we need to talk about
Mm.
the launch because I don't think that's really important.
No, I think people know about it at this point. I think we had a podcast on this when it literally came out,
We did,
all those years ago.
yes, because that was, I think, what was it, like October, November of 2020, the game finally
Yep.
dropped. We
I
did.
remember the night of it because Steam was crashing when everybody was trying to download their game.
Yes, I don't know if Steam still does this, but it was like the network was like dying, but then like it took forever for the disk to like load it. Like I
Mhm.
remember that was a big thing, and I think it was like I don't remember. I just remember it being very bad. But there's better videos and or podcasts to watch if you're interested in like a chronicle of the Cyberpunk launch, and that
Yes.
it doesn't really seem relevant because we just played it recently.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
a whole episode in itself.
yeah, and I feel like most of the bugs have been ironed out.
Mhm.
But I'll underline that most because I still had a lot of issues.
Oh, did you?
Yes, not nearly to the extent that I had on
Mhm.
launch, but yeah, I think driving still feels bad. Um, like collision seems to be weird. Like there's been a couple times where I've like hit a pole or hit another car and my car has gone flying or that car has gone flying.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and
I
I'm
don't think I hit enough stuff with cars.
well, maybe I'm just a bad driver, which I wouldn't put it past myself. Um, but yeah, I hit some stuff and went flying. I also this happened pretty frequently. Every time I paused the game or went into like the inventory or the character screen, whenever I exited the menu and went back into the game, the like I don't even know, like the god rays were like multiplied to like
Oh, yeah, I had that.
infinity, and then it
Yeah.
like slowly kind of dissipated and it went back to
Yeah, I saw
normal.
that. Mhm.
That happened all the time. I don't know what
Yep.
that was. So yeah, it's still not like a flawless, like, this isn't like
No,
a Naughty Dog game or something where like there's
but
pretty much
yeah,
no bugs. It's
but
closer
pretty
to
good.
it's pretty good.
I like my RPGs to have a little bit of bugs in them. Sometimes some of them are fun.
Some of them are fun, unless it's like unplayable, which I don't. It was
Right.
on launch. It's not now. It certainly
Yep.
you can play it and
You can
have
pick up this
minimal
game and you'll
issues.
be happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I did have a couple parts and missions where like it just wouldn't let me progress, and I had to restart the checkpoint. But
Mhm.
it certainly wasn't like a soft lock or anything like that. So I'll take it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's all right now. You can play it, and you won't be disappointed. At least on that
As
aspect.
we get in as we
As
get in
we
depth about the actual game.
that you probably will be
Disclaimer over.
disappointed in. Yes. Okay, so I'm not sure where we start because this is a really big game.
We just do story overview first, probably,
Sure, sure. Do you want to
I guess.
describe the story? Because
Okay.
I'll be honest. I'm I'm maybe not the person to go to for story analysis in any game ever because I am too damn impatient. Unless it's like a performance like in a Naughty Dog or something, I am
Right.
skipping that cutscene. And there's so
Yep.
many goddamn unskippable walking talk sections. I'm like, I got so done with it at the end as I was finishing up Phantom
Oh my
Liberty.
god.
I was like,
Yes.
I audibly said out loud, I'm like, stop fucking talking. I
I
get
know.
it. Um, yeah, it's a little
I
unreal. So I don't,
I
I don't,
had the same thing. I'm like, "I'm gonna finish Cyberpunk real quick because I need to do a video on it," and then
yeah,
it was, like, an hour later, and they're still talking. Like, "I'm so sorry, I'll be out in a minute." Like, they're not stopping, like, why is there still more dialogue?
I
Um,
know. So I
but
don't really know
I
what
can
happened.
yeah, I'll do a brief overview of the story. I think most people know the gist of this game, or at least if they have any interest of it, they
Yeah,
probably do.
yeah.
Um, I think this is where also a lot of my criticisms come in. But essentially,
Oh,
you're in the year 2077 in the greatly named Night City. Um,
so bad.
you couldn't have had a better name for it. Uh,
which, okay. I don't want to ride that too much because that's not
no,
entirely CD
but
Project Red's thing because it's based on a
it
TRPG.
is. It is.
So, but it is a dumb name.
It is a dumb name. But you're playing as the character V, whether you do
Correct.
male or female, whatever.
Mhm.
And you get to choose three different life paths. I think it's Street Kid, Nomad, and Corpo. I think.
Yes, this is correct.
Um, yeah. And then so there's a whole prologue section of the game, um, where you're playing with a Jackie character,
Yes.
and you are getting big in the city, which is all a cutscene for some reason. So you skip past all of the, getting big and like
The fun
becoming a little bit
stuff.
of a legend. And you just skip past all of that.
Uh-huh.
And then you have one big mission where you're stealing a experimental chip from
Mm.
Arasaka, which is the biggest megacorp in Night City.
Yes.
Um, so essentially, you go through that heist and then you steal it. And then I think it's Yorinobu whacks his dad.
What?
Um, and you get to see Adam Smasher, another great name. Um,
Okay, that unironically, I like that name.
that's that slaps.
It's dumb, but
Um,
I like it.
yeah, but then you are found out, and you have to make a grand escape. And I think Jackie gets shot, and then you have to
It
put the
does.
chip in your head to transport it.
Yes.
Um, and then on said chip is the engram of one Johnny Silverhand, which is
Mm.
like some like rocker anarchist guy from the 2020s,
Yes.
um, which was topical because a lot of the stuff is set in 2020 when the game came out. Um,
Correct.
and then after that, you get the main story, which shenanigans ensue. You meet people, you do different jobs for people, and
Uh-huh.
essentially you go towards the big quest of figuring out how to get rid of the chip in your head.
Right. All while Keanu Reeves is there,
Yes,
um, and he is there.
he is there.
He is there.
Yes, and I think I don't know. It's more of a like they start as opposites and then they either grow into like liking each other, and it's a big emotional thing when you get to the end of the game,
Uh-huh.
or it's I hate you Johnny, and you stay hating Johnny for the entire game and then don't feel anything when you complete the game. um,
Correct.
and then of course you have your great RPG elements of romancing certain characters and having certain connections and
Mm-hmm.
doing their story paths, which is pretty common in these games.
Yeah.
um, I think that's the gist of it.
That's the
We
gist
can
of
get
it.
deeper into specific things when we start talking about how we feel about it. But
Sure. Well, I think maybe let's talk more about Keanu Reeves.
yes,
Um, Not so much his acting career, but his appearance in this game. And here's something that
hmm
I'll give CD Projekt Red. Most games that have celebrity roles, they're in it for like a second. Keanu
yeah,
Reeves is in the entire game, and he was like,
and the DLC.
and the deal. That's true. They brought him back when they did the DLC. And he's in it. He's not like the most important character. He shows up like a couple times, I think,
hmm
if I remember right. But yeah, I think maybe that's my first problem is that I don't think any of the things I did throughout the game affected how Johnny Silverhand treated me.
Right.
Because at the very beginning, your introduction to Johnny Silverhand is that you're like in your apartment, you just survived getting a shot in the head, and he tells you to kill yourself and like points a gun at you and is like, you should just kill yourself because I get to take over your body once you die. And then right after that, he's like, actually, that was my bad. That was actually a big oopsie. I didn't mean to do that. Now let's be pals. And from that point on, I treated Johnny like a piece of shit. And I was like, no, everything you're doing is dumb and stupid. I'm going to do my thing. And he was like, whatever. And then at the end, spoilers for Cyberpunk.
Spoilers
Um,
for Cyberpunk.
he's like, I'm gonna sacrifice for you. And I like literally said good. And then there was like the the heartstrings music was playing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
so none of my choices throughout the entire game of treating Johnny like a second-rate citizen mattered because he still laid down his life for me because the game assumed that I was going to treat Keanu Reeves different because he's Keanu Reeves.
Right. Or
Um,
grow to like enjoy his presence.
I did. I just wanted my character to be an asshole. I wanted to
Right.
be evil.
Yeah.
So that's
Yep.
what I was doing.
Because my first playthrough I did the exact same thing you did, and it felt really flat.
Yeah.
This playthrough I was full in on Johnny. Like I wanted to like do the exact opposite of what I did last time.
Mm,
And you do get some like unique dialogue things, and like certain decisions I think are different. But like overall, it's not too big of a change. Like I just let Johnny take over my body every time they give me an option.
sure.
Um, and by the end of the game, I think there are different dialogue options where it does feel a little bit more like genuine when that kind of decision happens.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think they do a good job of like setting you up in the game to like really feel the weight of any decision at the end.
No.
Like for me, everything was almost there, but nothing really got like a genuine emotional response out of me the entire game.
Yes.
It's like they had all the building blocks of something that would be perfect, and I think just the storytelling fell kind of flat in a lot of aspects.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it felt like that nothing I did ever mattered, you
Right.
know? And in an RPG, that should be a big
Hmm.
part of it. And we've talked about that because that's pretty much all we talk about when we do these features or RPGs because they're fun to talk about. Like, oh, how
Hmm.
did you do something different? And then, we kind of compare. But I feel like our endings probably didn't, change at all. I think the ride that you went on, even though you took a very different path than I did, were
Hmm.
largely the same, which I think is an issue in an
Well, I
RPG.
did make the opposite decision at the end than you did. I
Ah,
let Johnny take my body,
oh,
which
okay.
is a wildly different ending than if you do the opposite.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I think the good ending is if you let Johnny take your body
That's the good
because
ending.
he, yes, because he doesn't actually end up taking it.
Oh, oh wait. So it
Because
doesn't matter at all what you choose.
yeah, because at the end, when I did the Johnny route and I was like playing to like Johnny,
Yeah.
like he gave me my body back afterwards, and he was able to like go behind the black wall with like Rogue or whatever and like be
Oh.
saved. Um, so that was the ending I got.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So either way, V is in control of his body so that in the Cyberpunk sequel, he can show up and it won't be Johnny Silverhand.
Yes.
That's actually very smart. That's future proofing your game. Um, but it's also kind of gutless and dumb.
I think all the endings in this game are the worst part about it, honestly. I feel like it all builds up to something and then the endings are unsatisfying no matter what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea what happened. And like, okay, here's something else. Cause like I feel like that the story just kind of like gave up on itself like halfway through. Cause like I was like gonna be friends with what's this Goru? Whatever that guy Goro?
uh
The cool
which guy?
Arasaka turncoat that
Oh,
was the bodyguard. I'm like,
uh I think that's his nickname. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot
they
his
call
actual
him
name.
Goro.
Yeah,
Whatever. I was gonna be
he's
like,
my favorite.
yeah, I like him too. He's chill. And he's pretty sick. And I'm like, oh, I want that guy to be my best friend. And so then I was doing the like heist thing at the parade, and like he just like dies. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. And then like none of the other characters I liked. And I'm like, well, okay. And then yeah, I just had no emotional attachment to anybody. And I think that might have driven like my disinterest in this game because I was like, well, I gotta finish it because I'm gonna do a podcast about this game, but I don't care about anyone. So it drove a lot of madness. But
Yeah, I agree because like especially coming off of Baldur's Gate, I did not really like any of the characters in like when I first started playing Baldur's Gate, but like the game like with their storylines, I genuinely grew to like a lot of those characters and they had like great progressions
yeah,
and personality traits. This game, everybody felt like it was like a plastic version of what they were trying to do. Like
sure.
I think they gave Johnny the most depth of a character, and that's only through dialogue options because it's like just as the game progresses and he randomly shows up in random moments to give his opinion on whatever's happening. And
Yeah.
that's the only time you really see a progression. But like all the people, like the Judy, the Pan Am,
Mm,
whoever that cop guy, River, is that his name?
I don't
Um,
remember.
and then we had Carrie.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
all the quests were fun, but I did not care about any of the characters because there was no progression. It seemed like a flat line. The characters were getting somewhere in their lives through missions, but I didn't see their character arcs changing. All they did
Right.
was like the main character more.
And like nothing that you do ever affected them. Like the
Right.
stuff just like happened at you and you were just kind of
Mhm.
there while they had the cool character development moment.
Right.
And that feels kind of toothless, you know. It's like, why even make it an RPG? Just have like an
Mhm.
action, a sci-fi dystopian action game.
Yes,
Why even
because
label it as an RPG?
I think that's what brings me to the positives of this game is when you take it with a grain of salt and look at it like a cheesy 80s movie, like talking about the future, it
Mm,
works really well. I think the world building has gotten a lot better since launch. Things looked empty when this game
uh,
first came out.
yeah,
Everything was built up a lot more in the game. You still can't go into a lot of the shops or anything, and you still get the same billboard over and over and over again.
right,
Um, but I mean, it is cool having the world building be a little bit more dense now. There's more vehicles, more weapons, more play styles to kind of choose from when it comes to that. And I think that's where the game does good because the action in this game is genuinely fun. You can do some really fun character builds with it. I do think it still does need work because there are certain styles that like you need to have more options to do because they're not as enticing for the player to do that. Because like
right.
if you want me to like do like the freaking like wire build where you can like just kill people with a wire in your arm, like you need to have more options and cool stuff I can do with that because I'm just gonna pick up a sniper rifle at the end of the day and make my quest done like immediately.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. I never felt like, and I guess maybe I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but like I never felt like the need to diversify my
Right.
weapons.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, I almost exclusively used silenced pistol
Hmm.
on number one. I
It's because it
did.
was the best game or the
It's
best gun in the game.
it is, and then I used a katana, and then I
Hmm.
used a throwing knife. And the throwing knife, if you're sneaky about it, it's absolutely silent. It's a one hit kill against anybody if it's a headshot. And then if stuff gets dicey, and no pun intended, you can just slice up a bunch of dudes with your katana, and it was never a challenge ever. like, I'm
Yeah,
like,
the game was
okay,
pretty easy.
yeah. And I guess maybe that's my bad because I was playing on normal, but
I think I
that's
was
what the
too.
game recommended.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I should have turned it up, but like I felt
I probably should
invincible.
have.
I
Yeah,
probably should have
exactly.
too. Yeah. So it didn't matter. And I felt very sad because I wanted to go shotgun because obviously,
Me too. Hmm.
but the shotguns all suck because you have to load one shell one at a
And they're
time
so slow.
and they're so slow, which in a game where it takes place 50 years in the future, where even the stuff that happens contemporary, like
Hmm.
stuff that happens in 2020, stuff is still super way ahead of where we are technologically. But shotguns are still, you have to load one shell at a time. No
Yeah.
clips or no mags, whatever critical says. Whatever. No drums. I
Drums?
don't know how shotgun shells
I mean,
come.
you could get a drum for a shotgun,
That'd
but
be pretty fun.
it would be fun. Not in this game, though.
No.
I will say I did like the double-barreled shotgun because I had a mod where you could make it flame rounds or like
Oh,
explosive rounds.
there you
So I'd
go.
have the dash move. I'd dash right up into them and then boom, boom, and then just dash back and then be good.
That's pretty cool.
I think I maxed out my points in cool and I think what is it, agility or something?
Reflexes.
Reflexes.
Yes.
Um, so I was really quick and I could like slow down time and go invisible and just kind of like dance around everybody without anybody knowing what's going on.
Yeah, that's funny because that's exactly what I did.
Exactly, because it's what the game is built for. Every single level can be completed so easily if you do that.
Yes. There's no, incentive. Like there was like a whole tree of bludgeoning weapons. I'm like, why would
Yeah.
anyone ever use a bludgeoning weapon?
Hmm.
Although I did use the dildo bat to knock out a bunch of psychos.
I
Uh,
didn't get that weapon this time. I was looking for it because I got it last time, and I didn't remember where to get it.
I, I don't remember where I got it. I think I just went to like a side quest and it was with the corpo lady that I think can help you in the heist with Jackie. And if
Oh,
you like meet her at like a hotel somewhere, then she
oh yeah,
bangs
yeah, yeah.
you. And
Yep,
then there's just like a
yep,
dildo bat on the bed because it was very funny in Saints Row 3 when there was a dildo bat. So they
yes.
brought it
So I had
in.
to bring it back. Hmm.
Yes. Even though that was a different company that went bankrupt, they decided to do it in this
Bring it
one.
back for the culture.
Bring it back. Um, So yeah, I did use that, but yeah, just combat really not very engaging at all, which I think
It's
is
fun, but it's like one-dimensional fun.
yeah, which I think is interesting because this is the same studio that brought us The Witcher 3, which I know you have not played The Witcher 3.
I have not.
I have
Not yet.
tried to play The Witcher 3 on 3 separate occasions and dropped it every time because it's not very fun in my opinion, and I'm starting to get the impression that CD Projekt Red is incredibly overrated. But I
I
don't
think
want
they're great if you love vibes and you just like the vibe of a certain product.
maybe, and maybe it's just not for me. But
Yeah,
the
and I haven't played any other CD Project Red games, so take that with a grain of salt. But
well, yeah. I think, but that what's interesting about this whole like the combat feels really bad and one dimensional is that the combat in The Witcher 3 is actually like super fleshed out, where it's like you have two different swords. One is silver and one is iron, and silver only works against monster types, and
mm,
iron only works against human types. And on top of that, a big part of the game is like tracking down like these huge monsters because that's what witchers are. They're basically like monster hunters for hire. And so then like a lot of it is like preparation. So like, oh, well, I'm going to hunt this type of monster because this guy told me about it. Let me like try to get some information, learn its weaknesses, and then once you learn those weaknesses, then you go out into the open world and find stuff to craft that will make that combat easier, and it's super rewarding because if you take the time to like study your enemy and like know all of the flaws and stuff, then combat's a breeze because you can like complete and it's like so rewarding because it's like you put in all that work and you get that reward. And if you don't, then you'll probably go in and die. But in this game, there's no preparation at all. You just click the guy's head once and he's dead. And it's like, why? How is this the same studio? I don't
yeah,
understand. Um,
I think too with a whole hacking perspective, I think they could have done more with that too, because
yeah.
they don't like it's not they don't make it exciting. I think that's the one thing. Like one, it's a little bit confusing to get into, and two, there's no incentive to like really get good at like the hacking part of the game because you
No.
can brute force the entire game, which is what I've done twice because like it's so boring to like try to learn some other upgrade or like hacking maneuver when I can just shoot everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And like the hacking mini game is terrible. Um,
I will say it's a lot better than Fallout because I don't have to spend
oh,
5 minutes doing it. I can just breeze through it in 30 seconds. So I
that's
do
true.
actually appreciate that.
That's true. I just think I'm against hacking mini games in general.
Yeah,
Um,
I
c-
would agree.
because like hacking in most games that have it, it's like all over the place. And it's like most hacking mini games are maybe fun the first 10 times, but if you're hacking something and you're doing that like 200, 300 times in a playthrough, that's not fun anymore. Especially since all of those hacking mini games are so short and one dimensional and kind of easy, kind of mindless, where it's like, oh, they're just kind of boring. So, yeah, yeah. The everything in this game's kind of dumb and stupid.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why it's like there is a charm here, but like everything is so middle of the road that I don't know if I have like a real opinion on a lot of it because like I could take or leave a lot of aspects of this game. It's it's truly something that is really pretty to look at and
hmm
really cool to think about and practice until you like really dive into the game. And I feel like I'm wanting more deeper beyond the surface. I feel like
Yes.
with GTA 5, you were able to explore every single aspect of that world to a
hmm
certain extent and there was a lot to do. There's a lot to do in this game, but a lot of it doesn't really like lead you anywhere or give you any kind of like emotional like relief or like
No.
excitement.
Yeah.
Um,
And
like I was just doing stuff to just to complete it.
yeah, I was too. Yeah, I will say I finished Cyberpunk and I went back to GTA 5 because I'm like, okay, I need to remember what like what came 7 years before it because like I
Mhm.
need to put this in perspective. And what if I was a game developer in 2015, GTA 5 came out a couple years ago, and I'm going to like Well, actually, I know Cyberpunk was in development
Okay,
for
so that
like
was like
10 years.
2011.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, never mind. But it was in active development after GTA was a thing. I
Mhm.
would like take notes and be like, oh, okay, here's everything that GTA does correctly. And here's a bunch of things that maybe it doesn't deliver on. And, you know, take the good stuff and leave the bad stuff. And it seems
Right.
like they didn't do that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that GTA is still running circles around Cyberpunk, which is insane to me. Like, all the writing is like 10 times better in GTA. The
Mhm.
world building, like, actually, it's actually like smarter than I think people give it credit for. Like, literally everything in the entire world is like poking fun at some aspect of American society, and like I didn't get that 100% from Cyberpunk. Which I get that Cyberpunk's more serious tone than GTA is. Um,
But it's not. That's my issue.
well, yeah, yeah. And also, I think it's weird that it like doesn't take influence from like games, because it takes so much influence from other sci-fi media, namely
Yeah.
movies.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I think the whole like cybernetic thing, um, I mean, that's Blade Runner. Like that's the
Mhm.
entire premise of Blade Runner, is that there's cyborgs and that they're trying to be hunted down because they're cyborgs. Cyberpunk's a little more like, it's different in that like cybernetics are accepted and kind of enforced, which could be interesting, except that was already done in a little
Right.
game called Deus Ex, uh, you know, like widely regarded as one of the best games of all time. Um, I don't know. Like it just feels like everything it's trying to do has been done better, and it isn't adding anything to that conversation, which I think is one of
Mhm.
its main weaknesses.
Yeah, I think when it comes to world building specifically, they're in this weird spot because like they're going off of this board game world, but they're also trying to make social commentary on the real world.
Yeah.
And it's hard because Night City is not part of the US in this game. It's like its
Right.
own little like rogue state, I think. And it's
Yes.
like kind of getting battled for by like all these megacorps, which is true and that happens. But I
Yeah.
don't think it dives into that as much as I would like it to. Um, I
No.
I mean, it's obviously like an anti-corporate, like anti-capitalist like vibe of a game.
Hmm.
And it does do aspects of that well, but I think it kind of like it amplifies everything to a point where it becomes like this game has like just Reddit vibes to it that I really don't vibe with sometimes.
Yes.
Where it's like you get to meet the sexy lady and do all of her missions, and then she'll bang you possibly.
Yep.
And then you get to look at the funny billboards, and they all have funny sex jokes on them, haha.
Uh-huh.
And then Johnny Silverhand says a funny, cool, edgy thing, and then you're like, yeah, he's so cool. And then you get to like be a punk rocker, and it's so cool. Like
Uh-huh.
everything just seems like the 13-year-old's idea of what cool and edgy is, and part of that is charming, but part of it gets really annoying as you keep going on through a game and it just stays at that level. Then there's nothing really deeper about it.
Yeah.
Like I get the whole like megacorps fighting for power. I like that angle. I just they did not get as like deep or demented with it as I would really like them to.
Right.
Because this world is incredibly bleak and like terrible. And
Hmm.
they do a good job of showing that, but I really need like more of that because it,
Yes.
it kind of feels like a B side of this story, um, which
Yeah.
they're not trying to make some grand political statement with this game. It's just like it's a world building thing of like this is what happens when there's no balances in any of this and money just rules the world,
Yeah.
which is literally what happens now. But it's like it's a little different in this game.
It's like,
Everything about it just seems 15-year-old's version of a sci-fi like masterpiece.
right, right. Yeah, the things that I listed are like actually smartly constructed
Yeah,
and like doesn't treat their audience like babies like
right.
Cyberpunk does. Yeah, I think that might be like one of my biggest issues is its like use of sex, which I'm not against in general. We just talked about Baldur's Gate
Baldur's Gate's
and,
great.
and saying its praises, and there's like a bunch of nudity in that game. And I don't have an issue with it there, but it just is. It feels like a crutch in
Mhm.
Cyberpunk, almost like. And this, I don't know if this is going to be controversial. I don't care. But it's like almost like using the fact that sex is like as like prolific in advertising and there's like sex workers everywhere, as if that is like a marker for us to be like, oh, this place is bad
Right.
because sex is everywhere. And it's like, aren't we like way past this? Was this game made in like the 1800s? I know this game was being made in like the 2010, early 2010s, but I mean, come on. I don't like, and it just feels so lame. Where it's like
It does.
even Blade Runner, which is not perfect, but like because there is some of that too in Blade Runner, and it kind of like fetishizes Asian culture, which this game also
This game
does.
does too.
um, but like it doesn't take that, like that's not like the main focus of Blade Runner. And in fact,
Mhm.
most of the world building in Blade Runner is that kind of like corporations have taken over, and like the only reason that all of these cyborgs were let loose is because this mega corporation like made them and then just like made a bunch of money on it and then just like released them into the world because they didn't want to worry about it anymore.
Mhm.
Like that's a way better like anti-corporate sci-fi thing than this game ever pulls, which I feel like is bad if if you're making a game 40 years after the fact.
Yeah.
Ah.
I do think there are good points. I think that mission where you have to like go to like the whatever like clouds, I think.
Oh yeah,
And you
yeah.
have to like do the whole like because they like program it into your mind, so it gives you like exactly what you want or whatever, and it ends up
Right.
being like a therapy session, and you have to like go save, uh, like the whole Evelyn quest. Like I
Mhm.
enjoyed that part of the game. That was maybe my favorite part of the game story wise because there was a genuine like feeling you have for a character there, and they're really getting into this industry that is like incredibly popular because of cybernetics and like the
Yeah.
mixture of like capitalism, sex, and cybernetics all coming together
Mhm.
into like a prostitution ring. And that was like really really fantastic. I will give it that. That's very early on in the game. I feel like they really
Yeah.
popped off with that, and after that it became really soulless. um
Yes. Yes.
and I think also like I have an issue when all of the NPCs, like when you do your their quests, the end goal is always just like you get to have like a sex scene with the character and then it's over and
Uh-huh.
then you're done. Like that's not an achievement. Like I don't even want to see it. Like
Right, right.
I want like genuine character development or something. So it seems like they're just putting it as like a pedestal for a prize. Like I know Baldur's Gate does that too with like the different acts, but like there's genuine character development in between that. You're not going just for
Yeah.
that. And there's a lot like surrounding that thing. The end goal is not that. It's like a genuine end for that character's story. Um,
Yeah.
so again, it feels flat. it,
Well, yeah,
it, yeah,
well, I think the difference between Baldur's Gate sex scenes and Cyberpunk sex scenes is because it feels like you actually have a relationship with that character in Baldur's Gate.
exactly.
And it's like, okay, that's actually an intimate moment. It isn't
Mhm.
just like TNA for the sake of TNA. I mean, that's
Yeah.
certainly an aspect to it, but it's like that's not the whole point. You know, Cyberpunk, yes, that is the entire point. So you can
Mhm.
see boobies.
And they
Um,
did market it that way, to
oh,
be
they
fair.
did.
People were disappointed with the limited amount of nudity when this game came out, actually.
That's crazy.
But I guess we're also coming off of Witcher 3. So,
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in that game you can have sex on a unicorn, not to the unicorn,
okay,
which I guess
that's pretty yeah, that'd
that
be
gives a
interesting.
point to Baldur's Gate
Mhm,
where you can bang a
mhm,
bear. So that's pretty
yep.
cool. And I'm not talking a big hairy guy.
Or am I?
Or am I? Technically, you can probably do both. If
Yeah.
you categorize Minsk as a bear, which I don't know if I would. He's a big guy, not hairy. But yeah. Is there anything else to talk about
I
Cyberpunk?
I I do wanna add that, we recently watched the movie Robots on, HBO Max, and
Okay.
that movie had a better, more in-depth look at, corporatism and, like, s selling marketing for someone to, like, need something to improve their body physically, like all these cybernetics and stuff. It genuinely had a better take on all of that than this game did, and in a much deeper level, like
That's
using planned
true.
obsolescence as a real message
Yeah.
and all of that in a kids movie, and it did it 10 times better than this game did. I just wanted to add that.
That is actually a very good point. I did not think about that, but yeah, robots is just ahead of its time. It's
Mhm.
like too good for what
I
it
needed to
is.
watch it again because I'm like, I remember this being a favorite as a kid, and then I watched it again. I'm like, man, this is actually really well written.
See, I didn't like it as a kid, which is
Oh,
something
really?
that shocked me because I think
Interesting.
I talked to my mom about it somewhat recently, and I think I brought up how great I like, or I think it is now, and she's like, "You did not
Mhm.
like that as a kid. You just liked the musical number at the end." So I guess I
That's
was
true.
part of the problem. Or like
You were
if
a child.
I was a child, and they is it the what do they play? They play a
It's
fun
a James Brown song, I think, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like the get up off of that thing. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that
Yeah.
is I feel justified in
Mhm.
liking a James Brown song as a young kid. But yeah, I did not like it, but I need to rewatch it because I do. I think we rewatched it somewhat
It's
recently for
on
something.
actually, it's on Hulu now because it just got off of Max, so,
What?
yeah.
All right, that means there's gonna be ads. That's
Oh,
very
yeah.
disappointing to me.
Well,
That's fine.
I will say we should probably talk about the DLC.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
Um,
Talk about them just aping off of another thing and doing it worse. The
yes.
first half of this game is Escape from New York. And
Uh-huh.
I don't mean like, oh, it borrows. It's like one to one Escape from New York, but worse because well, actually Escape from New York is kind of boring too. But um, yeah, the whole thing with Escape from New York is that the president is in a plane and it gets shot down and it lands in New York City, which is an island that has been turned into a giant prison and has gotten
Mhm.
completely like overrun by criminals. And then Kurt Russell has to break into the super prison and get the president out. And that was the whole time. And like the first half of that DLC, I'm like, how are they getting away with this? This is literally just Escape from New York. It's crazy.
Oh my
It
god.
eventually turns into something else.
It
Where,
does, but, like, it's still
but
very cliche.
that first
Um,
part, I was shocked because people were like, "This
yeah.
is the greatest DLC ever," and I'm like, "Y'all just don't watch movies."
Yeah,
It's just,
I think the people who really praise this game, 1, do not play story video games, 2, do not watch a lot of, like, films or TV shows.
well,
I
sure.
think it's a very, like, baby's first story game almost, and not as, like, a disingenuous thing.
Y-
I only
Yeah,
played FPS games for a majority of my life, so when I played this in 2020, I thought the story was a little bit better than I think it was now. Um,
sure.
Once you experience more things, you realize how, shallow some things are.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Once you
and that
play
can be true for
Disco
a lot of things.
Elysium,
Yeah, Disco Elysium wipes every single video game in terms of story, as far as I'm concerned. Baldur's
yes,
Gate is also incredible, um,
yeah.
but yeah, let's talk Phantom Liberty. So
Okay,
this is the DLC. I don't know when it came out last year. I think
I th-
um,
either that or 2022.
something like that.
Yeah,
But the premise is there's a new area in Night City that's like a little rogue state within a rogue state, um, called Dogtown, which is a great name. Dogtown
Dogtown.
inside of Night City is great. And it's
Okay.
essentially this stadium area,
Yes.
that is blocked off and kind of a heavily guarded, I guess you could say, prison of some sort.
You could.
Um,
You could.
and you get contacted by Songbird, who is like this super mega insane hacker who's working with the NUSA, or just the US at this point. Um, and she kind of baits you in saying that she has a cure for your chip issue. And then she becomes a Johnny number two. So now you have Johnny and this chick in your head at the same time.
Johnny, Johnny,
Although
yes,
Johnny
Papa.
kind of gets, yeah, exactly. And then Johnny goes bye bye for a little bit because she kicks him out. Um,
Yes.
and then her plane crashes with the president of the U.S. on it, and then you have to go rescue the president. And then the president is like some super badass girl boss person because of course she is. And then you have to fight through a whole bunch of goons. And then the president, like you essentially have to like find Songbird because she disappears when you're going through this crazy mech area, which that was cool. The gigantic tank fight was That was the most
Yes.
difficult fight in the game because you couldn't just shoot at it. You had to actually go to weak points.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, you do that, and then she gets kind of zapped bye, and she gets taken by the Dogtown leader, Kurt Hansen. So you have to go get her back. And you're working with the president, and then the FIA, aka the CIA, gets involved, and then you get to see Idris Elba um,
Yeah.
for most of the game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like him.
I did like him, even though I was like, he made working for the CIA at least somewhat palpable in this game because I get to talk to Idris Elba,
And he looks cool.
and he looks
He's
cool
wearing like
because
a
he's
duster.
cyberpunked. Yeah.
It's
So
awesome.
essentially, so essentially, it's a spy narrative, and they probably like put out a whiteboard and they wrote spy down, and then they're like, okay, what do we need for a spy game? We need espionage. We need
Hmm.
like the president. We need the CIA, and then we need like double crossing everywhere. Like we need to
Yeah.
get double crossed like 6 times, and that's
Uh-huh.
it. That's all they did, and then they went to work.
It's I'm sorry because I
You
know
also
that
need to make the worst endings in a video game that you can make.
yeah. Um I'm sorry. This DLC sucks. And I'm sorry
It was
to
actually really fun, but in a really stupid way
it was
because the
so,
story was just ridiculous.
it was so dumb. Um yeah, it's jeez. I can't even like put my thoughts because man, just like all the missions, there was like some fun stuff. I really
But
liked like when you're playing roulette with the French gingers
yes,
and like you're trying to
yeah.
like suss out like that was cool because it felt like
Hmm.
I was doing something awesome.
Also, turning into the twins was also
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, and then like having to like lie your way through the
Yeah. Why they
conversations.
only use that at the very end of the game perplexes me.
Yeah, I know. It's like that might be the highlight of the entire game.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite mission, but it's like tucked away yep, behind a $40 paywall at the very end of it. And it's like that sucks. And then you have to fight the other cool thing is you fight the scorpion, but I think they meant to do like a quick time event thing at the end where
Oh,
like you're
yeah, they
like
did.
falling out of that thing. But I
Hmm.
they did not have the framework to have like a quick time event, so it's just advancing the conversation. So there's
Hmm.
really no skill. You're
Just
just
press
pressing
F.
F, which is so
It's a
lame.
Call of Duty move.
Yeah, like
For an RPG, you got to have more than a Call of Duty move.
you can tell that they were like trying so hard and they're like, wouldn't it be really cool to have like a God of War like quick time event thing? Yeah, it would. Well, we don't we can't do that. So we'll just have it be a conversation. And I'm like, oh, that's I don't know. It's so weird. I don't get it. But yeah, it's an odd one. And
Yeah.
it's Escape from New York. But I think the thing with Escape from New York, which I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but I will say Snake Plissken is a better protagonist than V is because Snake Plissken at the end decides that he hates humanity so much and thinks that the whole earth deserves to be exploded. Because like I think he breaks the president out and the whole thing is that the president is carrying this cassette tape that was like it has the nuclear codes on it and he's going to like play it for the UN so that like tensions don't like erupt between the Soviets and the US. And at the end, Snake gives him like a cassette for like a country album and switches it out and then destroys the tape that's going to save humanity. And then that's the ending. The ending
That's
is
good.
that the
Yeah.
entire earth is fucked. And the ending to this is like I ride off with Idris Elba and he's kind of sad that the girl I don't care about died, but
Oh, yeah.
um
What? Okay. What ending did you get?
well, okay, cuz I guess I betrayed Songbird, but I'm like I trust Idris Elba.
Okay. I'm so glad I did the opposite, so we can have two different
Okay.
things here.
Yeah, okay, I was interested how much that changes
Yeah.
because I betrayed Songbird. And what happened was is that she got cuckoo crazy and I killed Kurt Hansen. And then
Mhm.
there was actually this cool moment where like I was at like the core of whatever was like holding her hostage, whatever was like powering the WMD that was inside of her. And
Mhm.
like because she was like kind of crazy. Her personalities had split, where like there was this one part that was helping me, but there was another part that was hunting me down and trying to kill me. And it took
Oh,
over this like spider drone, not as big as the one that you fought before, but it was a smaller one. And then it was a stealth section where I was like
oh
sneaking
boy.
around the compound while this spider drone was hunting me. And like occasionally I would be like downloading files and like doing the hacking mini game, but this time didn't freeze. And so I was like trying to figure out the numbers, and then I could hear the like as it was like getting closer, and then it was very tense. It was very tense.
That's a
Um
lot better than mine.
yeah, I was really that was honestly pretty sick. It was like a horror game. Okay, what happens if you betray Idris Elba?
So I betrayed Idris Elba, and me and Songbird ran away. Kurt Hansen still gets murked.
Of
I
course.
think that happens all the time. But we ran away, and then we had to, like, we went to like a space station. Like, they have like an airport terminal for the space station. So we had to infiltrate the space station,
Oh,
um, which was pretty cool. You get to like do a whole like, no Russian kind of thing, Call of Duty style, except you're not supposed to murk anybody in there. Um,
not supposed
and
to.
then it's a whole fight thing there, and then she's able to. She gives me like this like black wall weapon. Like I plug into her physically, and
Oh.
then she gives me this black wall weapon that just disintegrates literally everything.
Oh, nice.
And then she betrays me,
What?
so I betray her.
Wow.
I swear, there's like three double crosses.
Oh.
Because like she's like, "Oh, I can save both of us. I have the cure." And then you're on the train like out of there like about to be free, and then she's like literally dying and says, "It can only save one of us," and I'm saving myself. So then I'm like, "Okay, I'm turning on you." And then I call up Idris Elba and I'm like, "Hey, I got your prisoner here." And then Idris Elba gives me the cure.
This is very convoluted.
And then the game ends because you go in a 2-year coma when you get your thing removed. And the whole crux of it all is you can't use any cybernetics when you wake up.
Oh. Wait,
So
what?
then you have to go back to Night City as just a regular person. And the game ends where you just fall into the crowd and walk away like a normal NPC.
Oh. That's way worse than the one that I
I
got.
got the bad ending.
That is the bad. So wait, you're not so I okay. I thought that like, oh, this is the bad ending. Where like she's like
Well,
evil.
yeah, my whole DLC, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna be as selfish as possible,
Oh, yeah.
and I think that's why I got the bad ending.
Yeah, that makes sense. My mindset going through the DLC was I want to be best friends with Idris Elba.
See, I was gonna do that at first, but I'm like, I don't like the CIA, so I'm gonna be really selfish.
I don't either. I just like Idris Elba.
No, I know, but I'm like, I like Idris Elba, but not enough. I'm gonna do I'm gonna be like a nuisance to every NPC around me.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think like by the end of it, it kind of slipped into a groove. But then
Mhm.
I say that like I just described that mission and I described the cool spy stuff, and that was pretty good. But man, just too much talking. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I
The
don't.
whole end of the game is like 45 minutes of talking.
Yeah, I think my finger actually started cramping because I was hitting Y so much to
I
skip
know.
dialogue. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. A lot of telling and not showing, as they say.
Mhm.
I did write a bunch of stuff down in my notes that
Okay.
we haven't got to, but I don't know if I need to say it because I think I've already trashed this game enough.
What do
I
you
don't.
got?
Okay, okay. Here's some dumb stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, Screen burning. Why is that a thing?
Yeah.
That 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 won't be a thing 50 years from now. And I'm sure there are some people who are fans of this game that say, "Well, how do you know that? There's not really screen
You
burn-in
don't.
now." So I have a feeling that it's not going to exist in the future unless we're all using those like electronic paper displays, which I guess could be. Too many trailing missions. I
Hmm.
feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Choices don't matter. We
Hmm.
already did that.
Well, they
Um,
matter at the very end of the game, but not really much for 90% of it.
yeah, it's like the Mass Effect 3 ending, where like
Yeah.
none of your choices matter except for the one dialogue option that you get to choose good, bad, or neutral ending. I think that's how that goes. I know it's like very controversial because nothing matters and then it's just a dialogue box. So it kind of gives me that. But I also want to say, like, specifically because I've been replaying GTA 5 and how they do like setups for their big cinematic missions. They're vastly different, and how GTA does it is, in my opinion, way better than how it's done in this game. In that, like, in Cyberpunk, let's say that you're going to be doing, okay, let's just use the big heist with Jackie as an example, where you meet um, uh, Rick Ross and the lady at the at this like club, and then he's like, "Okay, let's go through everything that we're it's going to happen." Even though you've already done a bunch of like preparation, or I guess it's optional, where like you can recruit the corpo
Yeah.
lady and do some stuff like that if you want to. But then you have to sit and watch a cutscene of like, here's the plan, and then it just like lays everything out, and it's like, okay, that's fine. I guess it gets the point across of what you're going to be doing, but you can't press Y to skip it because it doesn't really matter because the game gives you a destination and like draws a line on the mini map of where you're supposed to go. So you don't really need to watch it, and it's unskippable and it's lame. But how GTA does setups is that they're separate missions. There is like casing missions in GTA 5 where it's like you're going to raid the FIB building. So we need to take a helicopter and like get a camera, and you can like watch the footage as you're like casing the place. And as you're doing it, Lester's on the phone being like, okay, we need to get this because we're going to be doing
Lester.
this. And it's like, okay, so you're explaining to me the heist that we are about to do while I am actually playing the game, which is, like the whole, it's better to be in the action than to be just told about action. Like, it feels more engaging. Sometimes there is the dumb dock working mission, and
Oh,
that one sucks.
yeah.
That's the one casing mission that I feel like is pretty lame. But otherwise,
Hmm.
like driving to a bank and like scoping out the security and like doing all of that on the ground stuff feels like you're actually a criminal and like this is the stuff that you actually would do if you're going to be doing a big heist like that. Where in Cyberpunk it's just like watch this movie, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just kind of lame, and it feels like rushed, which I know this game wasn't. This game came out flawlessly, and there was no issues.
Perfect launch.
It's a perfect launch. It just feels everything just feels like they took way less time than it needed to,
Yeah,
and it shows still,
it does.
which sucks. But
It's like a 5 out of 10 game for me. I think there are good things about it. I think I enjoyed surprisingly the river missions were kind of cool. I like the kind of
oh
like
yeah,
underground police work and like the weird human farm thing that you come
that was
across.
cool. Yeah.
That was cool. Um, the Evelyn stuff I already touched on. That was pretty sick.
Hmm.
For some reason, the DLC adds a lot of cars and stuff, which was kind of cool. I enjoyed that.
Hmm.
I liked at least using my money towards something because that's another thing. Like buying hotels and cars and everything, like apartments, doesn't do literally anything.
No.
I think there should be more like stuff to use your money for because you get a lot of money in the DLC when you start doing stuff and
Yes.
you can't really use it on much of anything. Um, but
No.
there are cool aspects of the game. I think there are some missions that are like really well done. I also like when you help out the politicians and you find out like that they're being like literally brainwashed through their houses like
Oh yeah,
wiring
that was cool
security
too.
system. That
Mhm.
was really cool. So those are like some of the good missions. Um, I think the rest just kind of fall into typical like here's a quest to do because why, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
not you don't want to rush the main quest too quickly. You gotta wait 2 days. Do something else.
Do a gig for someone, which are
Yeah,
all the same, except they're copy pasted in different buildings.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think the pacing is also really weird and like towards the end leg of the game because you think you've done every single mission and then you get a random phone call like randomly that gives you another mission and I'm like, was I supposed to wait for this? Like,
Oh,
what's happening
yeah.
here?
Yeah. I
Like, I
had
got
that
it down to
happen.
like 2 missions on my quest sheet, and then I'd randomly get a phone call, and I'm like, "Was this supposed to be triggered this late in the game, or is this just, like, really poorly paced?"
Yeah, I think I had the same thing where like I had done all the missions and I like waited to do the DLC because I assumed where I'm like, oh, okay, well,
Me
I'll
too,
wait to
yeah.
do the DLC until after I'm done with the main quest because I'm sure that's how it's intended. It isn't, but I that's what I thought. And I didn't get like a second phone call from Carrie giving me his like next mission until I
Right.
was like
Yeah.
halfway done with the DLC. I'm like, wait, shouldn't this be
I didn't
happening
get through
before the
most
end?
of Carrie's things until I was almost done with the DLC, and I'm like, "Am I supposed to just drive around like an idiot before the DLC came out for like, and wait for Carrie to call me, or, like, what's
I
happening
yeah,
here?"
I don't get it because I did every single gig and every single side quest, and I didn't get that call from Carrie until after I
Yeah,
finished the game. If I didn't go back for the DLC, I just would have thought that I did everything.
exactly.
Yeah, that's an oversight. But
Okay,
we
I was doing positives and it turned to a negative again.
sorry.
Um My final review, 5 out of 10. It's very middle of the road. Every time I have a positive thing to say, I also have a negative thing to say.
So yeah, it's a perfect 5 out of 10 for you
It's
then.
a perfect 5 out of 10.
Okay. Well, I think I would give it a 2 because
Okay.
there's a couple cool things, but I can't name very many positive things.
It's the
Um,
most dude bro Reddit sci-fi lover game, I think.
yeah, yeah, and I think it kind of sucks because I've been getting like really into sci-fi this year, and so
Yeah.
like it just feels like oh this everything that I've seen up until this point has like been outshining this game, which is unfortunate. So if you like this game and you've somehow gotten into this hour-long review where we pretty much just bashed it the entire time, check out Blade Runner. Check out Ex Machina. Check out the new Blade Runner 2049.
Robots.
Robots. If you're into the cybernetic stuff, if you're into just the anti-corporate whatever, uh, I don't even know. Maybe American
Play Disco
Psycho.
Elysium.
I play Disco Elysium. It's way better. And it's like an actual RPG.
It is.
There's no combat though, so I guess if that's
You
the
fight
only
with your words,
that's true. That's part of
which you
why that
also do in
game's
this game.
awesome. No, no you don't. You can try, but then it ultimately just turns into a splat fest. Um, so yeah, there you go. Bye.